this session is being opened by Helen Berhane, who is a wonderful name. I'm told it means light, and it's wonderful that we have light in this darkness of this woman who has spent her own time in darkness under being imprisoned. And the other great gift that this woman has is that she can sing. And I was reading some of her words. I will sing again and again. And that's just wonderful that somebody has come out of darkness and continues to sing. So Helen, I give you the floor now. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Helen Berhane, and I was born and grew up in Asmara, capital city, Eritrea. I will go direct to the message. The looting and destruction of sacred place and attack on religious figure in Tigray has shocked the world. People are shocked because they don't realize what has happening in Eritrea for the last 30 years. Eritreans are not shocked but by what happening. We know that the Eritrea government is capable of anything. What is shocking for us is that what is being done in secret in Eritrea is now done openly and shamelessly in another country. This is why I would like to give you some insight on Eritrea through my testimony. In 2002, the government would recognize it only for religious groups: Orthodox, Catholic, Evangelical, Lutheran, and Sunni Islam. But even though those groups suffer, for example, Patriarch Abuna Antonius Orthodox Church was under house arrest since 2007. By 2002, I was a member of the Rema Church, which at that time was the largest Pentecostal church in Asmara. In February 2004, I was teaching a group of around 90 young people when the police raiding house at around 2 a.m. Most of them were totally drunk. They beat us severely on our hands with sticks before taking us to the police station. The next day, we were taken to Adda Abeto prison. There was more Christian women has been arrested from elsewhere. 3 weeks later, all of us were transferred to Mysorwa, which means container. Around 10 of us were imprisoned in a shipping container. It was very dirty and full of lice that jumping around and beat us, so it was hard to sleep because we were being beaten so frequently. When you wake up in the morning, your entire body was red from the beats. The container was very cold at night and very hot during the day. We received very bad and very little food. The atmosphere was suffocated and the floor was always wet. There was no toilet. We were only given one small packet to share for the whole night, so the container smelled awful. More and more Christians arrived in the container who had been arrested in raids. Eventually, some non-Christian women were also detained with us. We were always tortured. If you refuse to sign a paper abandoning your faith, they did many terrible things to you. I continue to refuse to sign the paper, so they decide to punish me. I was put in a container with a woman who had been severe mental illness. This poor lady kept me awake day and night. As she's screaming and jumping around the container, at night she would bang on the metal walls. She was violent and unpredictable, so I had to be alert even when I was exhausted. They beat me many times. If I tried to eat, she would knock the plate from my hands. So I lost a lot of weight at that time. I was in prison with this lady for 10 months. I kept going only because of my faith, praying 3 times in the day, 3 times at night. I have been and experienced terrible things, but because of my faith, I had inner peace and they kept smiling. That angered the guards and they would torture me even more. The last time I was tortured was because they found a letter for encouragement that I regularly wrote to encourage fellow prisoners. The person I had right to use to be a guard but had been caught escaping to Sudan. He gave the letter to guard to reduce his sentence. I was taken out of the container. They made me sit on the ground and ask where the Bible was. So that was I using to research the scripture in the letter. I said, I don't have any one.
Thank you.
Is this okay?
Thank you, Helen.
No, I'm not finished yet.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
We can still hear you, Helen.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I don't know. I was taking out the container. They made me sit on the ground and ask where the Bible was that I was using to research the scripture in the letter. I said I don't have one that would were in my hand, in my head. They replied, okay, so we can destroy it then. They began to attack my head with their feet, hands, and anything else they had. Other prisoners screaming at that time to stop. They eventually stopped and throw me back to the container. I had a terrible headache all night. The next morning, I was chained and taken to a room, more torture. The guard beat me countless times with all his might, taking 5 minutes break to regain his strength, and asked me over and over, renounce my faith. He targeted my hands and fingers, saying, these are the one doing the writing. My entire body was swallowed and shocked involuntarily. He was shouting as he beat me while I kept silent. He continued, he had no more strength. He then called the guards and shouted, get her out of my sight. I was dizzy, my body was deep red and blue. I was unable to walk, so they dragged me back to container. They tried to chain me, but my hands were too swollen to fit in that chain. I only been walking again a few years ago after being tortured in my treated in my adapt home Denmark. I was in prison for 32 months in total. Today I'm free, and when I see a shipping container, it is hard for me to imagine how I survive. However, because of my faith, my experience made me stronger. So now when life is easy, I'm not afraid to speak out on behalf of the hundreds of others who still are in that terrible situation and cannot speak for themselves. Some of them, pastors who have been arrested since 2004, are very ill and their condition is deteriorating. So I'm voice for the voiceless. Thank you, everyone. I hope also the situation will stop for Tigray. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you so much. You know how difficult it is to go back over these things. And so we really, really appreciate your input.